We're very excited to have all of our athletes here tonight. We will be recognizing you in short order. Actually, before we get further, if everybody please turn on your mics. I forgot to ask that. Gusta Miller and Stacy Flom cannot be here tonight. Also, tonight's meeting is a study session, and normally there are no public comments at study session meetings. However, tonight there will be an opportunity to ask questions specific to the budget after its presentation, which is later on the agenda. Residents may attend the next scheduled business meeting on April 9th, 2024, and or contact the board via email at boe@shenschools.org with any comments or questions. All questions come into the Office of Public Information Officer and are shared with the board and or superintendent as appropriate. Policy questions or concerns are typically addressed by the board president. Operational questions or concerns are typically addressed by the superintendent or designee. With that, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? First is Tom, second is Deanna. All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Motion approved, and we'll move right into the superintendent's report. Dr. Robinson?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hoffman. So just a couple quick comments, recognizing that we do have an abundance of student athletes here tonight. We're going to get through that. Just want to ask Dr. Cecily Wilson to come just briefly, recognizing that we will be sending out a much more formalized communication, maybe at the end of the week, beginning of next week, related to the eclipse. And the reason why I'm doing this, because even though it's 20 days away, it seems like there's a amount of excitement of everybody wants to know what's happening. I always say there's a long time between now and 20 days from now. And so we will be formalizing more plans and setting out more communication. But just to give a kind of quick overview of like our objective behind what we're hoping to do for April 8th.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Our primary focus has been, of course, on providing instruction in safety around the solar eclipse and just the content instruction, so students actually understand the concept that's happening in the content of their science coursework. So it makes complete sense as we make it through the elementary level, in middle school science, and then in particular in 9th grade earth science. And so our 2 academic administrators at the elementary level and secondary level for science have been working closely with building principals to develop those plans around safety and content. As you know, our on-campus schools got dismissed at 2:15. We'll be leaving right as the event is beginning. But we do have 2 on-site elementary or off-site elementary schools that dismiss right as the event is gearing up to its peak, but not at its peak. And so they are working on some structured activities to support viewing. Those students in elementary school, middle school, and our earth science classes, as well as our students who may have a viewing opportunity after school at the high school level, will be provided with approved solar glasses to be able to view it safely. And like we said, we're really focused on providing some information around the safety in the event that people are out in the event and do not have those glasses. So those plans have been underway for the last few weeks, and people are putting final touches on because it's a lot of logistics to consider to ensure that we can do everything safely. But at this juncture, the plan is to proceed with the school day and to take advantage of the learning opportunity.
And the corollary is?
If logistics surrounding Shenendehowa Central School District encourage us to make a different decision, then Dr. Robinson will make the decision in good time.
So it's kind of like how Snow Day decided, everybody decided to close and we're the only person that's open. So we'll see. As I said, it's 20 days between now and then, so we have a lot of time to really think about how do we actually take advantage of this opportunity in a very safe way. So more information to come. So thanks, Cecily, for that.
Very well.
Appreciate it. And so tonight is like all the nights of the board meeting, exciting. And particularly exciting when we have an opportunity to recognize our students. And so tonight we'll be recognizing students from our winter sports, and just so the board knows, in April, I think it's the study session meeting in April, we'll be recognizing students from the arts. So Frank Roselli will be coordinating. It could be kids who participate in various art contests, kids from the drama and musical. So again, another opportunity to recognize our young people for their great efforts and work. So at this point, I would like to turn over to Mr. Conan to start this process.
Good evening, Dr. Robinson. Good evening to members of the Board of Education. I want to thank you for having us here again for our winter sports season. Just to give you a little bit of some information, we had an outstanding winter season this year. We had over 650 athletes competing. We had over 650 athletes. My wife is texting me to tell me that I left my son's baseball bag in my car while I'm reading through the notes.
So you gotta wait for it to disappear.
I just said, I'm up first.
Parenting first.
So if I go through this one real quick tonight, you'll. Anyways, he'll be okay. I'll get it. He does practice later. But we did have over 650 athletes compete for all teams, on all teams. I am proud to say, and we'll be putting some information out within the next coming days, that all of our winter teams made the scholarship scholar athlete team by NISPA, meaning all the teams had a 90 average this winter. So far through the fall and through the winter, every team has qualified as a scholar athlete team. And as you know, that's always been one of our goals as an athletic program. This was the first full year of girls wrestling, and last year as part of the budget, the Board of Education, the superintendent approved a dedicated coach, head coach and assistant coach for girls wrestling, Dan Palmerino, who has a background in freestyle and folk style. He took over the program as the head coach. Antonio Lamascola stayed in the role of assistant coach. And the girls had an outstanding season. Dr. Robinson and Dr. Wilson Turner came down, a couple times, and we were at a couple matches and walked around, and you could just see the energy. You can see the energy of the girls wrestling program and it moving forward. And it's nice to see that the girls get time. They wrestle in the wrestling room with the guys, and when they have the more competitive girls are over here, and the more competitive guys are over here when they're teaching different moves and strategies. Coach Weeks might be training them, and then there might be a group down in the gym, there might be a group in the cafeteria. So it's a very expansive program, but I think if you come and look at it, it's great. And I was having a conversation with somebody today, and their comment to me was, it's amazing now where our girls wrestling program is at with how many girls are now doing off-season training. Girls that probably weren't doing anything a year ago are now vested in the off-season training. So that's been great. We brought back the boys-girls doubleheaders with Saratoga. That's always been something we like doing. We sold over 1,000 tickets for that game during the winter. I think for the students, it's always one of the best nights. They did it as part of their campus crawl, and then they went over to the hockey rink for the game over there, and just had a really great spirit week during the middle of the winter, when it can get, when you come to school it's dark out, when you leave it's dark out, and we still had a really good turnout for all of those. So overall, it was just a really good winter sports season. I'm going to bring up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got six teams that we're going to bring up here today and recognize as champions within their respective sports. The first team that we're going to bring up is a defending champion. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how our Nordic ski team does it and keeps pushing forward and doing all the things they do when you look outside in the middle of January and there's no snow on the ground, and you see them roller skiing in the back parking lot, and they get on a bus and they have to go up to practice up in Glens Falls, and they have to go up to Gore and do their races and stuff. It's just, I really feel it's like one of these things that I really think people should appreciate the accomplishments of what they do, because to do it and where we live in the Capital District, this isn't like Queensbury and some of the other schools up north where there is a lot of snow who they compete against. We didn't have a lot of snow this winter, and somehow they kept pushing and they wound up defending their sectional championship. So I'd like to bring up our Nordic ski team and Coach Andrew Klenning, our girls Nordic ski team. Come on up.
It's always a challenge to come up first because I never know exactly what to say. I've no precedent before, so I've got all this wonderful stuff to say, and hopefully I don't take too much time. But yes, we had a very successful season. We defended our Section 2 title. We had our top 3 athletes finish 1st, 2nd, and 5th in the sectionals, which is our best finish ever. Raquel Landa, who couldn't make it tonight. We have several musicians in our, we are much larger, we have several musicians at a band concert currently, so couldn't make it, but she won her 2nd consecutive individual title followed by Courtney, who finished second, and Fiona Klingbeil finished fifth. We finished second in the state. We finished second in the team relay. We sent 4 individuals to states for qualifiers, including Jacob, our boys qualifier. We won our second consecutive Lake Placid Invitational, which brings athletes from 4 of the 5 sections that we compete against. And again, it's a very challenging sport. It's a fun sport. They make it just so much fun to be part of, to coach, and their enthusiasm. And again, when there's no snow and we have to travel so far, and it's dark all the time, we're cold, battling the wind, they still make it fun for themselves and fun for me. So great season, and it's such a pleasure to work with these young students. Thanks.
Thank you.
It begins.
And Andrew did tell me we had some people in the band tonight who were going to be here.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Nordic Ski. Next up is a team which is consistently here year after year. They continue to do a phenomenal job. There's a little bit more snow on the mountains, so our alpine ski team has it's a little bit better for them, but they still had their challenges with snow this year as well too. Rich Burnley, Matt Moran, our head coaches, have done an incredible job. Our girls repeated again this year. They finished second in New York State Public High School Athletic Association Championship. So I'd like to bring up our girls alpine ski team, our head coaches, Section 2 champions, and New York State runner-up, New York State finalists. Come on up. Sarah's coming from softball practice.
So we have 4 team members here out of 7 girls. Sarah McFarland, Taylor Rose, our captain, Allison Bach, and her younger sister Marissa, who's an 8th grader, was our number 4 skier all year. These girls won. When we ski race at West Mountain, wherever we are, we race against every ski team in the section. So there's 18 teams there we're racing against. These girls won 11 of 12 races this year. They only lost 1 because we only had 3 girls that day, and one of these girls crashed, and we didn't have a total score. That's the only reason they didn't meet the Dolphins. Only reason. State meet, they were second, close behind the leader. They didn't lose by much. A couple of places here and there, and it would have been a big difference, and we would have been a 3-peat. And sectionals, I don't know how many section championships we got. I'd have to go in the hall a lot and count them. There's a ton of them out there. Our girls are always right in there. It's crazy. I understand there were some problems with sportsmanship at a couple of other sports this year in Section 2, and I just want you to know, if you want to see sportsmanship for student athletes, come to a ski race, go to the start, and watch these girls screaming for each other. No matter what team they're on, they're cheering each other on. Taylor is the head cheerleader. Absolutely. She is going berserk at the start of every race, cheering every other athlete on. So, pretty proud of these girls, and thank you.
Thank you.
What am I supposed to say?
You're up. Say thank you.
Thank you guys. This is like my 4th one of these coming too, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support over there. Come on, go.
I wonder who that could be. Guess who?
Good job.
Our next team that we're gonna talk about is another Section 2 championship team that, you know, is perennial, comes up here all the time. I just want to tell you just a little bit about it. Our boys indoor track and field team, Jason Burlingame, has been the head coach, and I can't tell you why it's so important, you know, the work that I do with the athletics program with the help and assistance of Dr. Robinson. Last year we had some struggles with regards to some things with our distance program. I met with all the coaches and we kind of saw it heading in a direction where we needed to do some things to move it back, and we kind of came to this idea that we would have sort of a running coordinator for our distance program, and Dr. Robinson supported this idea of Coach Cloutier, who's our girls coach, kind of taking over and being sort of a running director for our distance program. And I can't tell you the impact that it's making, and I can't tell you the impact it's going to have in the future. And it's going to be a defining moment for us where we did something to intervene for the betterment of our student athletes and didn't allow just something to go on and say, okay, well that's at Shenendehowa, we see a problem, we deal with a problem, we fix a problem, and it benefits our student athletes. And I'm so appreciative of the work that we did on that, and I appreciate your support on that. And like anything else, you know, Dr. Robinson's always asking me questions and vetting it, and then when we got to it, and we put it into reality, it's making a huge difference in our program and going to continue to make a huge difference. And the coordination between Rob and Jason and all the coaches is tremendous. But with that said, I do want to give credit to Jason Burlingame, who continues to just churn out sectional champions and student athletes who head to state championships year after year, win big invitationals. So I'd like to bring up the boys indoor track and field team and Coach Burlingame and all the coaches. All right, boys, keep on moving over that.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Before you do that, there was one other thing I left out.
Hey guys, come on.
Yeah, we hosted the throws for track and field, and we were in a position where we needed to perform very well, and Jason will probably expand on that, but all our boys showed up to watch the throws over at CODA, and they were cheering all the throwers on, and we were able to win. If you want to talk a little bit about it.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge undertaking the size of our program, and as Mr. Coleman said, we appreciate all the support, because sometimes managing all the different event groups, throwers, distance runners, jumpers, vaulters, we have a lot of coaches that have to come to bear on that, and I really feel like we're in a really good place now from a team cohesion standpoint. But we went into sectionals this year, we were down by 34 points to Saratoga, a huge rival of ours. On paper, we were down 34 points going into the final event, which was some of the throws, the shot put and weight throw. All of our guys came down to support the team. They outscored them 40-2, so we won really narrowly by 4 points. You can imagine the excitement. It was our 8th straight sectional title, which actually ties us for the Section 2 all-time winning streak. And we added a number of athletes to the Section 2 all-time lists. 4 of them went on to compete for us at the state meet. We had a relay, we had Zane Ives and Asan Alozi here. They are now 23rd and 33rd all-time in the 55-meter dash in Section 2 history, all athletes, all years. In the 3,200-meter run, which is about 2 miles, Jack Seagroat broke our junior class record. He's now the 13th best 2-miler in Section 2 history. And for shot put, Braden Polder, he was double champion in the shot put and the weight throw and helped us secure that title. He's now 7th all-time Section 2 history, and he broke a 45-year-old school record here at Shenendehowa, held by Bill Nason. So it was a great season. We had many guys compete in the postseason, both at states and at nationals, and we are ready for a good outdoor season. Thank you again for all your support.
You guys are going to squeeze in for a picture? Indoor track and field. The next team, you can just kind of put them down that they're here every year and just kind of mark it down that they'll be at the winter showcase of winter sports. They had a dominating season this year, and I can't even begin to tell you how dominating they were in terms of their performance. I think last year, I think we had very few kids that went to states. I think they sent 11 kids to the state championships this year, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Chuck Dunham, who's only had 2 losses in his entire career, set the all-time Section 2 record for most Section 2 champions as a coach within a program. And I go always back to the beginning of this when we built the pool and we put our own swim program together. And now that program, all those kids who come through that are now flourishing as members of the Shen swimming and diving program. So without further ado, I don't know how many this is. I always lose track. Chuck will fill us in, but our boys swimming and diving Section 2 championship team, come on up.
Let's keep going. That's all, boys.
I mean, a bigger pool.
Teach me how to swim.
This always feels a little bit weird. It feels weird having my back to everybody else when I'm talking about it. So Chris kind of hit the nail on the head last year at our banquet. We did have one diver actually last year, Nate Davey, qualified, and I threw out at our banquet last year that I thought that 10 people could make states, and everybody thought that I was nuts. And it wasn't like we had like a family of octuplets or something that moved here with all, Michael Phelps' kids didn't come into the district or anything like that. So it's the same group of guys, and we always have an acronym each year, and our acronym this year was STATE, which was strive together, attitude, toughness, and effort. And then it always, like most of the things we do every year, has kind of multiple different meetings. But the biggest one was really our state of mind and how we approached every day and how we had to have a, one of my go-to sayings is, you don't come to practice to work hard, you come to practice to train like a champion. And there's a big difference between those two different types of mindsets. And I actually give these guys a ton of credit and emphasize this a lot at our banquet this year that, we got off to a good start, but our seniors, when I met with them and talked with them and we were doing goals, agreed that our attitude wasn't quite where it needed to be. So I give our team a ton of credit for recognizing that they were very coachable and very receptive to the fact that they weren't where they needed to be, and they needed to make a conscious change to have a little bit better attitude and approach towards practice every day, because it's grueling and it's hard like it is in every sport. And I give them a ton of credit for being able to recognize that, number one, and number two, take the steps necessary to kind of make those changes. And then, I've been doing this a long time, and this was pretty high up there as far as the sectional championship goes for our program, which is really saying something. Our divers went 1, 2, 3, 4 for a clean sweep of diving, and it wasn't particularly close. Nate Davey repeated as champion. His younger brother was second, and Nate's twin sister won girls in the fall. So nice family to have in district for diving for sure. And I thank, as always, Coach Hogan does a wonderful job with our divers and running our strength and conditioning program. And then I was also really fortunate to have as much help as we have within our program. So having Coach Harding and then Coach Washburn and Coach Hotel, who couldn't be here tonight as well, and having such a great staff allows us so many different opportunities. But we got off to a great start on Thursday. On Friday, every single kid that swam made it back to finals. That's only happened 3 other times that I know of in our program's history. And just to give you an idea of how special that is, we're one of 2 teams that, based on qualifying times, can even field a full lineup for sectional. So to get everybody back is an unbelievable accomplishment. And then at finals that day, we kicked off the meet with our medley relay, sneaking in by a couple hundredths of a second and qualifying for states. And capped the day off with our 400 free relay, sneaking in and qualifying for state. So apparently I set our goal too low because we ended up with 11 guys going to states, and we ended up as the #1 ranked public school in New York State. So I'm extremely proud of these guys. I'm extremely proud. And as I said to them, right before our sectional championships, Nate's success is Coach Hogan's success, is Lucas' success, is Nick's success, is, Chris mentioned, big year for me getting that record, but that's a reflection of not only our whole program, but our whole district as a whole. And that's Mr. Coleman's success, our board's success, Dr. Robinson's success, everybody's success, because we're all on the same team and everybody plays a part and everybody plays an important role. So thank you for your role, thank you for your support, and thank you, Mr. Coleman, as well. Thank you very much.
I was not prepared for this, but a big thank you to all of you guys here, and a big thank you to all of our coaches. We're very grateful to have 5 coaches, which is a lot, and each of them bring in a lot to our team, so we're very thankful.
Thank you.
Just fit.
Nice job, guys.
Good job.
Okay, our next team is moving right along. Our next team had a phenomenal year. 2 years ago, they qualified for the state Final Four. Last year, they didn't get as far as they would have liked. I talked to the coach, I talked to Juan, and he said to me, we've got a really good team coming back this year. I think we got a really good chance to have a great season, and they did. They had an outstanding season, both with team recognition, individual honors. They wound up winning the league. They wound up going up and playing in the Section 2 championship versus Saratoga up at, I think was one of the best sporting events of the year. I put it up there with, like the girls volleyball Shen versus Burn Hills game, the ice hockey championship up at Union. If you're up there, the whole event, there's 2,500 people there. Place is pretty packed. We get a lot of students at it. It's just a great environment. It's a great showcase for the sport to show what high school hockey is all about. And our boys certainly delivered in winning the Section 2 championship. They were knocked off in the regionals by a very tough Messina team, but taking nothing away from them, they had an outstanding year this year. So I'd like to bring up Coach De La Rocha and the varsity ice hockey team, Section 2 champions.
You guys look so much different with all the padding on and everything.
Yeah, step up a little bit.
Winging this one, because I didn't prepare it.
Make sure they're ready.
That's all right. Thank you all for having us here tonight. I'm definitely honored to be standing up here with this group of kids. It's a group that there's a lot of pride in the room when we're all sitting together, and the things that they accomplished this year. We did have a lot of kids returning this season from last year's team, who I thought we had a remarkable year last year as a younger team, so there was a lot of promise, and we hit the ground running. We finished the season with a great record of 18-5-1, but there was some adversity along the way. And every time we hit a little bump in the road, we had a great team of leaders. A few of these kids aren't even here tonight because they're also members of our lacrosse team. But just the leadership that we had as part of our group to kind of keep setting good examples for our kids, for our younger kids, and keeping the train on the tracks was tremendous. We hit a little more adversity at the later part of January when we had one of the members of our team get injured. It was a season-ending injury. And the one thing about our sport Unlike maybe others where it's the next man up, which in fact it is, but it's based so much on chemistry. When they play as a line, and it's just something that builds over weeks and weeks of practicing and trial and error. And basically what I'm getting to is we really had to reinvent ourselves on the fly. And this was at the end of January, beginning of February. And so, you know, we were still confident in ourselves, but as I step back and reflect on the last few weeks of our season, I'm super proud of them on how they pulled it together, and we managed to become even stronger just in our belief in one another, which is what team sports is all about. So, you know, we had a great run through playoffs. As Mr. Cullen said, we had a 3-1 win over Saratoga, which is, in my mind, our most complete game that we played during the season. And we just came up a little bit short in our regional final, but it doesn't take anything away from what our group accomplished. So thank you guys again for your support of our team, and look forward to trying it again next year. So thank you.
You got anybody want to say?
All my captains are happy. Anybody want to? Evan Stocker, come on up. Come on, Evan. Come on. Matthew, you want to give him a little help or no?
Yeah.
All right, come on up here. Stand. Just a little moral support. Either one can take the mic. Go ahead.
I think that this year was monumental and probably the best end I could have asked for along with these guys. We really fought together. As a family, we just fought to the very end, and I felt really, really complete at the end of the season. And it's obviously sad to let it go, but I'm incredibly happy and super grateful for the talent out here.
Nice.
Awesome.
Great season.
Thank you. All right, congratulations, boys ice hockey, Section 2 champs.
Thank you all.
Our final team is a representative of our unified athletic program, and it's our unified bowling team. And they won their division championship this year in their culminating event. The unified bowling season is a kind of short, intermediate winter, fast program for the kids, but it's something that they thoroughly enjoy, and they get the competition of being a true athlete at Shenendehowa. And I'd like to bring up our unified bowling team, division champions, and their head coach, Jess Salmon. So come on up, unified bowling.
Yeah, you're good. Josh, you can speak.
Hi, thanks for having us. I don't have stats and data for our athletes, any of that stuff, but what I can tell you is that the 3 unified weeks that we play is by far my most favorite 3 weeks of the school year. I get to see inclusion at its best outside of the classroom. I get to see our athletes and our partners working together, and they're just so supportive of each other. They're awesome. I want to introduce Faith. She is our YAC president. She's going to come up and talk a little bit more about what the student experience is like for Unified.
Hi everyone, my name is Faith Muller and I'm a senior here at Shenendehowa. And 2 years ago in 10th grade, Coach Gorano in my Unified PE class introduced me to Unified Bowling. Now, I was a very shy student back then. I wasn't really involved in anything outside of just school. And so, participating in Unified Bowling really helped me grow, first of all, my love for bowling. I joined the Spare Time Bowling League for teenagers, but it also got me involved in YAC Club. Like you said, this year I'm the president. And just watching how encouraging everyone is and seeing the students with all different ability levels is just really amazing to me. Unified sports has really like has been a life-altering experience. And so, from my point of view, Unified Sports Program, it just opens so many opportunities for all of our students. And I'm so grateful to be part of it. And on behalf of everyone here, we'd like to thank all the coaches and the community for making this a possibility.
Thank you.
All right, congrats to our unified bowling team, region champions. Just before I conclude my report, I'd just like to offer some final remarks. I want to thank all our teams and coaches for coming up here tonight and for their hard work throughout the course of the season. As I said, it's always great when we get to honor our winter championship or any seasonal championship athletes. Coming up in the spring season, which is starting, we have the girls flag football, which is in its inaugural season. April 10th is our first game that we played under the lights. We are doing some things to make sure we have a big crowd out there. They are working hard. We have 32 girls on our girls flag football team, 3 coaches and 1 team manager. They were supposed to have their jamboree and are scheduled to have their jamboree with all the teams from the Suburban Council this Saturday up at Troy, but the weather might not cooperate, so we might wind up postponing that till next weekend, but more information on that. And all our other teams are going through the process of selecting rosters and putting their teams together and getting ready for a great spring season. Last weekend I attended the New York State Athletic Directors Conference. It's always the same time every year. And I shared with Dr. Robinson, you know, when you go to a lot of those professional development, if you've been doing this a long time, you're always trying to find 1 or 2 things you can take. And there was a speaker that I went and listened to, and it was very profound, the comment he made. He said, "Is the program you work in about action statements or just simply slogans on the backs of your shirts?" And I think the thing that, you know, Dr. Robinson has always instilled in me, which I've hopefully instilled in our coaches, we aren't just about slogans on the backs of our shirts. We're about accountability, and we're about being on time and caring for one another and nurturing our programs and leadership, and having action statements that kids will all buy into, that, you know, hey, we're all into this with the team first, a team first mentality. And it's okay to put slogans on the backs of shirts, but you gotta have built this culture inside of it where that actually means something. And I found this was a nationally recognized speaker, and I just took that, and I've been talking to all our coaches about it since last week, and it's been a very eye-opening kind of experience to talk about where we are, to hear that we're doing a lot of that stuff. So that concludes my report. As always, thanks to the Board of Education, and thanks always to Dr. Robinson for his support, and Dr. Wilson Turner too, who's really been great coming to all the games and really getting around with Dr. Robinson and seeing practices, and I think we're out touring practices next week. So thanks again, everybody, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. It's always very exciting to have the athletes here. It's also very exciting to hear not only about their accomplishments, but about their academic success as well. Also to hear about, you know, all the new things that are coming up with the girls flag football. And hopefully we'll probably see you, I think our next sports is in June. Is it May? It's in June, okay. But this is a highlight. I really look forward to these meetings where we get to see the kids in person, or young adults, rather, for most of these individuals. But it's a wonderful opportunity, and thank you for coordinating it. You make it very engaging to hear what's going on in the hearing in particular, so that we can relate to each of the teams and their experience. So thank you again.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. So we'll pause and allow for their transition. Yeah, I heard they all have homework to go home and do. So.
And it's still light out.
Kelly, you want to cook or you want me to
You're gonna put me, you're gonna. I'm gonna stand over there. Is it on?
Let's start this process.
Is it just supposed to be the arrow?
Yes. Oh, no.
Just a freeload.
I have to too, but my reasons is my battery just doesn't have something, so I have to stay plugged in. I gotta find this.
So can I commence?
Yes, please.
So, thank you very much, and again, I applaud the efforts of all our coaches and those who provide great opportunities for our kids. And with that same vein, so we have two presentations we're going to share tonight. This first one, and Kelly Barkley, and I keep confusing Kelly being here only a few months, but she keep reminding me it's been a lot longer than that. We actually started this process more than a year ago with Lindsay Valenti, who was our former communications person, to start looking, it's about 2 years ago, start looking at our website, and then during the transition, things kind of paused, things kind of stopped. So we picked that back up. So what you're hearing is a continuation of now about 18 months of looking at website design, things of that nature. And also when we transitioned with Kelly into the new position, we started seeing, and we started noticing over the years that communication-wise, we need to add some additional capacity. The question was, when was the right time to do some of those kind of things? And so we're waiting for the website piece to come around, but again, things got delayed for a wide variety of reasons. So tonight you're gonna hear a combination of the two things, kind of like the website as a major piece of it, and the larger communication direction that we want to go as well. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Kelly to walk us through a presentation.
All right. So as Dr. Robinson mentioned, I have been here for a year now, which in some ways it feels like it's been 10, and in some ways it feels like I've been here a month. Depends on the day, I guess. But now that I've been here for a year, when I first started, Dr. Robinson said, take some time to really get to know Shen. There's so many different aspects to it. And while I wanted to jump in and change some things right away, it was really good advice because there is so much to get to know, and it really helped me get a sense of our goals, where we're headed. And so now that I've started to get a real sense of things, I've put together this about where things stand with the website and as well as my goals for communications in the future at Shen. So we're going to talk about, like I said, first we'll start with website because I know people are very eager to know where that stands. We'll talk about that and then overarching communication goals. Okay, so the key enhancements we're looking to see in the website, navigation. We know right now that it can be not as intuitive as it needs to be in terms of locating things on the website. I know you're all very familiar with our current website. And one of the issues, there's a number of issues with that. One, user fatigue. We don't want people to just give up searching for things, but we also find that when people can't find what they're looking for easily, they're then more likely to call Shen staff, which then is more taxing for different administration that are having to answer those questions when it is readily available on our website. We also want a modern look. Our website, it is an older website, it's dated, it's ready for a refresh. We want something that has banners that go fully across the screen, that can incorporate videos, bright graphics, newer fonts. We know we need all of that. A search function, this goes similar with navigation. We need, right now, one of the complaints that we have seen through past surveys and just that comes through the office is that people have a hard time with our search function, not giving them exactly what they're looking for. And sometimes people result to going to Google and just searching. That's not what you want. We want people to go through our website to get to the different items that they're looking for. If they're not doing that, they could miss important alerts that we're trying to tell them about. They could miss events, any kind of updates from us. It's really important that we funnel people through the website. So we need a search function that's done well. and admin use. I want to take a brief second because I think it's important with what comes later to explain the back end of our website and what goes into it. On a daily basis, I could get, say, 20 requests for website updates. And that could be on the low end sometimes. And those can run anywhere from someone sending a photo with a blurb of something that needs to be posted, or some directory that needs to be updated, or forms that need to be redone. And some of those could be just take a minute. Some of those updates could take 10 minutes. So if you think about 20 of those and the time that goes into it, that could be almost 2 hours in a day of website updates that need to happen. And part of the reason or part of what could change with that are things like scheduling. So we don't have the option on the back end of our site right now to schedule things to come up and down on their own. So going in and making those updates can be cumbersome, or that's how things end up being outdated. Also being able to have other people be administrators on the site, but those updates have to be approved. So you can make sure that there's still oversight for things, but I'm not the one having to go in and do all of that. And that frees up important time to do other bigger picture things, or things that I'll be talking about later on that I'd like to see us be able to do for communication. So those are back end wise some of the important things that we're hoping to see with key enhancements. So on this search, like Dr. Robinson mentioned, it started in 2022 with my predecessor. I spent time going back through all of the information that she left. I looked over the survey that was taken. Didn't feel the need that after 2 years to redo the survey. That's reason enough that we didn't need to do a whole other survey, but the information in there was still really important. It was over 180 people that were surveyed. 80% of those are guardians, which is we have a number of different audiences and stakeholders with our website, but guardians is our key audience, and those were 80% of the respondents. And a lot of what they're looking for, we took into account when you see the important search criteria here. I then, after going through all of that, went through the website, went through the internet in terms of looking up both school education-based and non-education-based websites, award-winning websites, things that were just visually appealing as a whole, getting a sense of what was out there, what different capabilities were, and what we might be interested in incorporating into our site. I pulled DLST, our leadership team, on different website options, asking what they liked, what they disliked, sort of using it as a, what's the word I'm looking for? You get like a small group of people. Focus group, thank you. Sort of doing it like a focus group, using it as like a focus group type thing to get information from them in terms of what we were looking for, and got a lot of valuable feedback, and then spent a lot of time discussing with Dr. Robinson what we're looking for, what our goals were, and I demoed a number of websites, both self-led and through different providers, going through demos of different options, and landed on 2 finalists after all this. And you see some of the important criteria that we went through, keeping in mind price, navigability. Another key thing that, I'll actually go to the next page because we'll talk about it more here. Another key thing is accessibility, wanting a site that is ADA compliant, that offers different translations when it comes to pages is really important. So we kept accessibility front of mind. These are other things, we touched on some of them, but that we're looking for. We wanted something with training that offers a lot of training to make sure that it's an easy process in terms of switching over. Pop-up announcements was another thing that came up that people really wanted to see. Some people missed the alert banner. We want to be able to, when you come to the site, you have a pop-up saying, something may happen. Having individual pages for each school, so it's all under an overarching brand, but those schools have their own sort of individual website, if you will, that can also be run by certain school administrators, again, with oversight, but it eases up some of my time. And other important things that in the survey came up were calendars. Calendars and directory were 2 things that people said they used the website for a lot. So I really kept my eye on what the different providers had in terms of their calendars and directories. And so something interesting with calendars is like being able to customize which calendars you see. So if you have a child at Acadia and Tasago, you can look at both those calendars at once instead of having to click to different things. So they overlap and you can just see on one calendar all the events just for those two schools. So there's a lot of neat functionality. I won't get into all the different details, and there'll be time as we get further in this process to go into that, but both finalists fulfill all the criteria that you see here, which is why they are the finalists. So these are the website finalists. They're School Now and Final Site. Final Site is the top example, School Now is the bottom. I'm not going to click on them now, but you have the option to do so within the presentations that you have. These are just examples of sites that they've done, and keep in mind, like, our site will be our own site. It will look how we want it to look. We will put it together. This is just to show you what these companies are capable of and get a sense of the different things. So like this School Now example, I believe, when you click on it, you see that their banner, it moves. It's all videos. So these sites incorporate videos and movement in the way that we want them to, and different things like that. And one of the other things, or a couple of things I want you to keep in mind when, on your own, you're looking at these sites. I have spent a lot of time becoming a bit of an expert in website redesign, and this isn't my first website redesign. I've done one before at a previous organization. I'm not asking you in any way, there is no onus on you to decide which you think is best or anything like that. And there will be a time later in this process where we will be getting a lot of feedback. We'll be asking you as we start to build out the site, because whichever option we end up choosing, there will be certain things we need to customize and all the little details, and that is the time where we'll be sending out, before we go live, we'll be sending out so the different stages of the site, getting feedback from a number of different groups, board included. So you'll be very involved in that process as it goes on. This is just to show you kind of where it's where it's at. I haven't been sticking to my script at all here, so I'm going to transition from website now into communication needs, but I thought it was important to do the website piece first, because we need to go a little bit more in depth into that, but it plays into our overarching communication goals here at Shen. So these are the 5 key things that I have goals for the 2024-25 school year. One of them is a comprehensive communication plan. So that's building out a plan that shows all the communications that are coming out of Shen. Of course, it's a living document, so there's crisis PR that comes up, there's last minute events. Those will get added in as necessary, but there are things that happen every year. And I, of course, have my breakdown of that already, but we really need a spreadsheet, which I have started to build out, that shows each quarter which communications are going out, what the outcome of those communications are, should we be continuing to do them, having links to all of those communications so they're not in different places in the drive. And I've started to build this out. It's a huge undertaking, but you'll see in the next steps that my goal is to have that ready for the 2024-25 school year. And the plan is that then that can be presented to Dr. Robinson and the board at the beginning of each school year, showing what communications are going to look like for the year ahead. Incorporating videos, that kind of speaks for itself, but we've had a goal for a while of incorporating more videos into our website, our social media, HR purposes, kind of marketing as a whole. And so the goal is to have the capacity to have someone that has the capability and the knowledge to help create videos for Shen so that we can be using those on an ongoing basis. Additional staff, I'll talk about a little bit more on the next slide. We talked about the website. Promotional campaigns is something I feel very strongly about. We have a lot of exciting projects coming up, especially 5 Maxwell, and being able to have really comprehensive and multifaceted marketing and PR campaigns that go out around these different initiatives is going to be really important. If you click on the example that I provided there, the PR Association for Public Schools puts out different winners of awards for each year. And one of the 2023 award winners was actually kindergarten related, which I thought was kind of relevant. And it was a comprehensive plan that they had put out around trying to increase kindergarten enrollment. And when you look at their plan, they incorporate podcasts, they incorporate all different graphics. They translated, because they had a large Spanish-speaking audience, they translated their whole campaign into Spanish as well and put out the campaign in another language. So having the capability to really make campaigns that are multifaceted like that is a huge goal of mine. And I think with, to this point, added staff, we will have the capability to do that. So this is just to indicate, I know we have, it's already sort of in the plan for the coming year to incorporate an additional staff member in some capacity for communications. This is to show what other local school districts have in terms of communication staff. You can see we fall somewhere in terms of enrollment numbers around the Schenectady line there. They have two, on the lower end is Saratoga that has one, they have 6,000 students. You know, we have 12 schools, we have, I think we're almost 9,500 students at this point. In order to be, my goal is to really have the commitment to excellence motto that we have, to have that reflected in our communications. And in order to do that to the degree that we can be leaders in the education communication space, we really need additional staff in order to increase our capacity. And I think with that, we'll be able to accomplish these goals and really set ourselves up to be leaders in this space, which is exciting. So the next steps, Dr. Robinson and I are going to decide.
So we're at 1, right?
We are, yes,
I
we
just want to make
are
sure that's clear.
a communications department of 1.
This is one really good one, though.
I like to think so. It depends on the day, but for the most part. So the next step, Dr. Robinson and I will decide on the website provider based on the information that we have. After that, it's an estimated timeline of 12 weeks after we get the contract signed of getting something up and running. Don't hold us to 12 weeks. There are a number of things that could go wrong, and one of the things I have been warned about by both of these finalists is that we have a massive amount of content on our site. One of them said more than they have seen for any other district that they have done. We have so much content, there's going to need to be paring down, and the migration of all of our content into something new may take us outside of this 12 weeks because there's so much, figuring out how it will all go. But I think that is to say, once we sign a contract, it's not a year out that this is going to happen. We sign this contract, and it's a realistic goal. If we were to sign the contract shortly, that depending on the look of things, we could have something pretty soon for the coming school year, which is exciting. Just don't want to make any promises because there's a lot that could happen there.
It's a testimony to the transparency that we've built in this district, though, because of the feedback that we got.
Absolutely.
So that's a good thing, quite frankly.
Absolutely. And then Dr. Robinson and I will just discuss scope and details for an additional hire, and I will finish the strategic communication plan for the coming school year. And it'll be exciting because 2024 or 25 will be the first year that I can hopefully have the time to present that to you at the beginning of the school year to really show you an overarching view of what communications will look like. So I think that's
Good. Thanks, Kelly. Initial comments, questions, because I have a couple of comments I want to make as well.
Okay,
Maybe questions.
Jason, were you going to say something? Because I do have something I wanted to ask. So I do know that BOCES currently provides the website service, but it's actually more than that. It's also crisis communication. And so one of my questions is, have you talked to them to see what they could have done?
Yes.
And then the second, what they could have done, because it seems like things like streaming video and multilingual translation, things like that, they probably could accommodate. But as far as the value with going outside of their plan, it seems like there would be a big difference potentially.
Yeah, BOCES has been a part of this, and in fact, in terms of pricing as well, there are pricing differences because we're a part of BOCES that we see in this, but that's kind of a separate thing. But yes, BOCES does do our current website. They were a part of this process, and there would be potential in terms of our current website, it would be difficult for them to incorporate video in the way that we want to see it, and also to do translation. But to do that now and to pay for that now, just doesn't make sense when we're gonna do a new website. So doing like small little Band-Aids at this point, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense for us because we really need an overhaul. So while there are some of those capabilities that they offer, incorporating those into our site right now just doesn't make the most sense. But they were a part of this process in terms of
and also trying to find another candidate for.
Yes, they were a part of that. Yeah,
they were part of that.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a quick question. So the two finalists, those are vendors that would help us design the website, and like we maintain it afterwards. Is it more right? It's not like
yeah. So it's similar to what we have now. So they are the host of the website, but we maintain it. Yeah. So all the back end updates, and in fact, and
they help design too, right?
Yes, yeah. They help build it out. They help design it. They help migrate. But all of the like back end updates and everything, and there's even more flexibility with these options in terms of the things that we can do with the site. Because right now there's a lot of constraints around it because it is such an old back end system. This would really allow us to. There wouldn't be much we couldn't do on the back of it.
So just a couple more things. Just I having been through website designs in a number of places too. Do not underestimate. You already said it, but getting rid of stuff. It's a great thing, and you can use a lot of data to see where views are and who really wants stuff. But again, you're on that. But I will say this is very exciting. The stuff you've already done with our communications and our stuff coming out, I've told you this a number of times already, but is really great. You can already see the way the efforts and I think the excitement and the different vision of how we can communicate and do some outreach and present information. So I am excited to see that continue to grow. So I think that's a good investment because, as we all know, communication is such a big part of what we need to do, and also, unfortunately, often a big part of the headaches we don't want to get. So that would be great. And then I'll also just say the nice use of data at the end there, comparing to other districts. I think that's always helpful to kind of situate us and see where we are and see where we could make, have opportunities to do things. So that was a good add. So thanks.
And they might be copying. Well, I did go look at the other websites, and some of them are nice, but looking at the two samples that you shared, they are very different from those two samples. So going back, so these would be the web hosts. So they're going to help design it. Yep. They're going to be hosting the site.
Yes.
So the whole Shen Schools, that Google Suite option, that's all going to change, because right now with like Inside Shen, a lot of it is Google Sites.
Yeah, so that's a whole other sort of.
We're not changing the intranet.
We're not at this point, but the nice part about both of these is that in the future, if we did wanted to take that on, we couldn't, like, if we do this and we're like, this is great, it would be nice to migrate our Inside Shen at some point into this as well, so it's all under one area. We don't sort of have these offshoots that are getting created right now, which is kind of troublesome in some ways, but that's sort of once this is tackled, because the intranet is a whole beast, and it would really delay things to incorporate that in this. But both of these options have the option to do that in the future, which is nice. They're both scalable.
Well, I was also thinking of the clubs and such that use Google Sites, so
yep.
that in this stage, they're not going to be affected.
It wouldn't impact them right now. Okay. At some point it may, but that's all stuff like these different providers, they help with migration. So it's not like their site would disappear or they would need to rebuild it. These places help. They take the information that's already there, they migrate it into this new site, adding in the new look. And so it would all be the same. And also what's great with a lot of these is you worry about like URLs and things like that. A lot of them incorporate redirects, right? So like your links aren't changing, things like that. So it's really the goal, if it's done well, is that there's very little upset to what exists, other than once you get there, it's looking different.
When you say redirect, so what will still be sheena.org type thing, right? So it will be a separate site, or it has to be, I guess, if it's a new web, if it's a.
No, I mean, we potentially have a whole different web.
Yeah, that's
yes.
what it sounds like.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So we're really paying them for that for that URL, really, the site.
I mean, we're paying them to host our whole website.
Host the whole website, got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and build out our website. So like the frame of it essentially is built, and then we kind of fill in the sort of skeleton of it, if you will. And there's the one-time price, but then there's also exactly like we do now, the annual fee to have them continue to do that.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
So thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. And so that means that Kelly will be with us for at least another 5 years. I
Yeah, this
appreciate
annual plan, you gotta make it a 5-year plan with a hard commitment and
No,
no
I
trade
really
clause.
appreciate it. So a lot of neat things that we have coming down the pike, and this is just one of them. So the last presentation, and I won't necessarily go through every detail because the board has seen quite a bit of this before. And this is still a part of our study session board presentation piece of it. We'll have the more formal budget hearing in May. So I just want to, and again, since the last time we presented this, not a lot of changes to it because, quite frankly, I think we presented a pretty comprehensive document moving forward. So I will move somewhat quickly through some of the things, but just contextualize that our process, like most processes here in the school district, starts with our goals, our mission and goals, our why, and then we figure out what we're trying to achieve and how we best do it, and how we measure the effectiveness of those actions. And so that's what this depiction is. And clearly, one of our first primary fiscal objective is our strategic budgeting process, to do things like you saw tonight, to support the various initiatives for our students, to develop a website. So very strategically think about how we spend money and the return on our investments. The question that drive it, and these questions drive a lot of things. And I was asking, what else can we do? What else can we do to make the experience better, more relevant for our kids? How do we take advantage of those emerging big cultural shifts or otherwise, right? So again, we want Shen, and Kelly alluded to, our commitment to excellence has to be something that's real, and something that's vibrant, and something that's constantly evolving. So that certainly drives what we do, and you've seen this graphic a few times in terms of how we make decisions. It comes right back to students being at the center of those conversations and discussions. So this graphic is, again, it's more than a graphic, it's truly a model that we use to analyze and make decisions. And if you had this, there's tons of hyperlinks behind this that goes into a series of different questions that are asked and answered, particularly when we come to instructional program decisions. So there are a lot of assumptions that we use in making a budget, data that we use to make predictions and do some forecasting. And then there's some expectation in terms of what we hope the budget to achieve beyond what it's already doing. And one of the primary purposes of the budget is to preserve the good things that we're doing. I mean, that's by far the primary purpose of the budget. And then we look at some enhancement opportunities as we move forward. Again, maintain the balance is a big piece I mentioned with the program preservations. Looking at diminishing returns. When is a point where, okay, you know what, it's probably not the best thing to continue investing in because we're seeing the returns are getting less and less as we go from year to year. And also, how do we build a budget and thinking about the future so we're not doing something that we can't repeat. One of my favorite saying here to our folks is repeatable successes. We got to be able to do it over and over again at a high level. So how do we get to that point to do things over and over again at a high level? So clearly that then lends to our multi-pronged approach. So we look back, we look at current situation, and we look ahead as we're making that particular decision. So all those things drive our process. A lot of data, and in fact, this week we're looking at different data, dotting our I's and crossing our T's, looking at some of our existing capacity and saying, you know, as we have some staff turnover, we always ask ourselves, we stop, should we continue the same way, or does this create opportunity to do something else, right? So how do we use the budget capacity as much as we can, not only as we're planning the budget, but more important, as we're administering the budget throughout the course of the year. In fact, the planning part is actually the easy part. It's the administration part of it where we really have to stay on top of and dot our I's and cross our T's. So a couple of things, challenges we know. We always have the challenge of trying to balance big individual cost unit, health insurance, RX, drugs, dental, big individual cost units, pension costs, big individual cost units. So try to figure out how do we balance those things as you move forward. The state fiscal outlook, right now, it's relatively positive. When I say relative, last year and this year, in comparison, in some past years, we were sitting in these conversations and crossing our fingers that the cuts won't be as bad. And so now we're positive or optimistic that the past budget, hopefully April 1st, will be slightly even better than what we projected. So if our worst case scenario is actually a pretty good case scenario for us. So those are challenges we can think about. And then cost escalation is one of those big things, because here we sit in February making assumptions about things that we're going to do in September and October and November and December, and will those price points be the same. So we have to kind of look at the cost fluctuation and try to project some of those costs as we move forward. Some opportunities we have, as I mentioned before, as a school district, it's not by happenstance. There's a very measured approach to ensure that we are fiscally strong school district, so we can, as much as can, control our financial destiny and subsequently our program destiny. Looking at the repurposing, as I said before, looking at those repurposing, when looking at things, making sure we don't have single points of failure in our system. Particular significant failures in our system, like just only one person is doing this or only this. So we can't have the onlys when we have a tremendous reliance on certain things. Personnel management is huge. We have about 2,200 bodies that we employ, about 1,700 of those full-time equivalent when we do the math. So we employ a lot of people to do the work of educate and provide program services to our students. And we certainly have been leveraging the federal funds over the last 2 years and having an off-ramp strategy from the beginning. Once we got the first COVID funds, our first thing is like, what happened when we don't have the funds? And okay, so if we can't answer that appropriately, we have to go back to the drawing table before we ask even how we're going to use those funds moving forward. So again, I share that backdrop with you because everything else will come into play as we move forward. Health and RX is one of those that quite frankly, we hedge our bet more so on the high side than on the low side, because our rates will change again mid-year in January. So we're making some forecasts about what the rates are between now and January, and what they may potentially do for January to June for the second half of the year. Retirement pension costs, we know what those formula, those calculation percentages are. So we calculate those out based upon staff and projection, things of that nature. And we, as you know, we are in the process of negotiation now with SAW. We haven't necessarily started with SUSA yet. It's not going to be a complicated, the contract is very complicated, so we'll pick that up with SUSA probably in April or May. So we don't, but we have to anticipate some of those cost implications with all those bargaining units. The board has heard several times over, certainly the safety piece of it. We've been, a lot of things we're doing with safety right now. A lot of the things with safety is already incorporated in our operation and maintenance budget, so we try to figure out how do we use those allocations more effectively to address some of those things that's coming out of our safety audit. The cybersecurity piece, you've heard several presentation by Ray Nardell and his folks, and we just last week, the contract for dual authentication as an example of one of those things that we're investing money right now to build our cyber security posture moving forward as we look at those kind of things. Some things that, as I've said, not a lot of huge dollar figures, but huge potential impact. We try to think about those things as we go through the budget process as well as some of those big picture dollar pieces. Debt service, a big dollar amount, and we have to think about how do we manage those funds as we move forward. So you hear through the budget, everything is going to come back to equity, everything is going to come back to expansion of programs, and the impact of enrollment on our programs as we move forward. So a big leveraging point for us, and we've been doing this now for 19 years. I can't speak to my predecessors prior, but for the past 19 years, leveraging the retirement possibilities that we have. And so each year the board authorized that we can go out with an incentive, and we pick numbers based upon the demographics of our staff. So we analyze how many people are retirement age, service age, and circumstances around individuals that we know, and we come up with a fair number of people who we think should take an incentive. And so this number, we actually started out 17, and we have 18, and the last one came in, quite frankly with you, we were getting ready to put the agenda together, like, okay, fine, it kind of makes sense. So we have 18 individuals, and that's a change from the last time I presented this, if you recall, it was 17. So we have 18 individuals, and those opportunities are great for us. And so I just kind of, for simple math, So if someone is leaving at 100 and we're hiring at 50, that means we have the potential of 50 to do something else. And that's something else then, that breakage, if you want to call it that, creates opportunities when we start thinking about other program enhancements so that the budget can stay flatlined. This year's budget was a little bit different because we knew that there were certain federal programs, staffing, that we were going to incorporate in the budget. So this not only tried to address some of the enhanced additional, but also help with bridging the off-ramping. And so that was always been a part of our process plan, knowing that we always, each year, have a significant number of staff, and if making incentive or not making incentive, we always have a number of retirees. So that piece going into the equation, we knew that, okay, we had opportunity to help the off-ramp piece pretty seamlessly, as well as some additional staffing, as you see in the budget here. And so the first off-ramp piece that we really went through all the things that we do in federal funds now, and there's some key positions that we knew when we put them in, that we want to continue on as well. And this is what this page reflects, some of those key positions that are, some are still, because some of the federal funds will go into September, that will be off-ramping some of those things into the coming school year, and assume those things within the budget as well. So that's the first part of the equation, so to speak. Then the second part of the equation is then looking at where do we have some other needs that's coming about. Certainly, several years ago, we started with a new universal screening to try to get another data point to diagnose academic needs of students. And so with that, we see some areas, particularly in the middle level. We're going to add some staffing, one additional academic intervention service support teacher at elementary level, and one middle school for ELA. And a 0.6 is going to combine with a current 0.4 that we have to have a full-time capacity at the middle school to do some additional supports. A lot of focus on instructional coach. We started this coaching model probably about 8 years ago, where we realized that we want to have professional development. It's great to send someone to a conference or to pull a bunch of people out and have them come to the cell for professional development. What we were lacking was that follow through, the on-demand when someone is now doing something, the on-demand where it could be smaller group as necessary, and in some cases even one-to-one to say, let me come and unpack your data with you and talk about how does this change your instructional approach. And so we started that coach, and we started coach when we rolled out our journeys, our math several years ago. We just started a coach when we rolled out Wit and Wisdom to have, again, people on demand working directly with our teachers to help them bridge that learning gap faster as we move forward. And so each year we kind of assess when do we do certain things, what do we do based upon capacity and things of that nature. So this budget year, we're looking at two different coaching components. One has to do with ENL. It's not necessarily for ENL teachers, but teachers with ENL students in their class. And probably one of the faster growing demographics of students is our ENL population. And so how do we make sure then we help support teachers who have ENL students within their classroom? So we're pretty excited about that piece coming on board. We need to ask them with ENL capacity based upon numbers. And similar on the special education side, we also want, again, because the whole notion is we need the whole equity piece. If we need more to realize parity, we need to invest more to realize parity for all students. And so those two pieces we're pretty excited about bringing those coaches on board under the PD umbrella, very targeted, very focused, very systematized approach to using the coaches in those capacities, similar to how we use those coaches now. And so on the special education side, Michelle Madlad each time comes up and share. We have a sizable population of young people, particularly coming into our system in kindergarten, because we have them now in preschool, so we know because they go through the CPS process that we have to accommodate program and services for. So a lot of this special education is looking at that, and so over the course of the next several weeks and months, we'll be unpacking it from a program, what, where, who, those kind of things. So the logistics of administering program. And we also have an interesting transition that we're working on right now between the law changing, the federal law changing from keeping students until 21 to keep them until 22. New York hasn't made that adjustment yet, but we get IDA funds, we get a lot of federal funds, we have to make that adjustment. And the second part of it too, I'm not sure if it's public yet, one of the key individuals to that program, there's an impending retirement piece of it. So we want to bring actually someone aboard earlier to help bridge that gap, because that program is so specialized that you can't wait to have someone new to show up and say, hey, ta-da, you're the teacher. It's not your typical program. So we want to try to also bring someone to create an overlap for that program as well, because that program has been very successful. That's a program that's now is housed at the mall. For, at some point, maybe I'm thinking the board members probably actually never been to that site, so maybe we'll give a tour, or maybe I get a map of the mall. The next time you're at the mall, you'll see where that program is. So it's pretty exciting. It's a great program. A lot of work, field work. Kids go to jobs. Kids, a lot of great things. A lot of life skills. It's absolutely a great program. In fact, we teach kids how to go to, quite frankly, how to spend overnight at a hotel. Something we take for granted that you think some people never had opportunity to do or know how to do on their own. So we really want to do those kind of things as we move forward. So we're pretty excited about some of the pieces coming to special ed. I say we're unpacking the details of the logistics right now as we speak. On the other side, there are always some enrollment pieces, not a lot of significant FTE consideration, but they're always filling the scheduling gaps, right? Art music is one of those areas that, because every kid is taking one of those unified arts courses, so we have to look at art and music and those kind of fill the gaps as we move forward. CT is one of those areas. Kudos to Rose Barrow and even some of the work that Matt Davis has been doing. A strong number of kids going into our CTE courses, and we've added some second level CTE courses that now we're seeing, okay, we're building the capacity, so this is additional capacity that goes with our technical trades course that we had construction 1, now we're going to construction 2, and building out that capacity as we move forward. So pretty excited about that. And then we have some enrollment pieces that we're monitoring right now that we may, and I say may, right now we're going to see how the enrollments play out for kindergarten. So because we have half-day K, so 0.5 is basically another AM section or another PM section. So that's why it's 0.5. It's not a lot in terms of that piece of it. And you've heard some exciting things that we're looking to do with esports and some bolsters, some modified level sports to again create more opportunities for our kids. The ECA units piece is something that we made the board approve the commitment to our goals about engagement, trying to create more engagement opportunities. Last year we did more. When I said last year, by the way, I'm talking about this year's budget. I'm already into next year. We did some more, and now proposed for 24-25, create some other capacities. And so we're looking at some structures. We're looking at what do we offer, why do we offer, what's the numbers. You know, that's a big part. We say we have it, but our kids participating in it. What are the numbers? Where should we do more of, less of, those kind of things. Same thing with field trip. We studied field trip. What are the field trips? Why do we go on certain field trips, certain grade levels, all those kind of things. Try to systematize it so, again, we don't have a hodgepodge of, good things, but not necessarily systematized across the system in terms of how those things align. So we're pretty excited about those kind of things. And even competition code, we budget about $35,000 for that. Add to that, because more and more we have kids, quite frankly, it's great. Success costs, right? So when kids are making to the national this or the national that, we have to figure out how do we support those kids. More so than not. So again, these one of those things, a good problem to have, to know that our kids are doing great things and we're trying to be more supportive of their endeavors. I mentioned the local field trip piece. We're going through a process right now. I've analyzed a lot of data related to local field trips. Security is always one of those areas, trying to make sure we have strategically have enough people in the right place, right time when it comes to security across the campus. And similar to monitors at the middle school, some transitional points during the course of the day. We want to make sure that we have ample capacity by looking at some part-time situations as well. So none of these things by themselves are singular large sums of money. All these things will have significant impact on the overall experience of our kids. And so related to that, as we come off ramp for one set of federal funds and landed in the budget, we also took advantage of some other funds that came out from the state with a Cubs grant to, again, add some capacity. So we're always trying to figure out how do we tap into various funding sources to support the budget with a plan of how do we off-ramp certain things and bring certain things back on, and then off-ramp moving forward again. So 25-26, we'll be talking about off-ramping the Cubs grant. And so there's a defined plan, even when we applied for this. What's our sustainability plan for this in 25-26 for those particular services that falls under the umbrella? So overall, the budget dollars that I shared with you last time hasn't changed. The percentage is the same percentage as we had last time. So that hasn't changed. It's just like a breakdown of where the funds go in those larger buckets, so to speak. As you can imagine, the majority of our funds fall into the instructional piece of it, but it just gives you some sense of how the resources are allocated throughout the budget. And I would tell you that if you were to get most school budget, and I actually did it and studied it quite a bit, these percentage areas plus or minus one are the sweet spots where schools should be. So some places out of bounds, then you have to ask the question why, because it might be a legitimate reason, but you still have to ask the question why. When you're talking about some of these sweet spots, remember, percent of the budget is being used within the school for those kind of things. And so again, this kind of give a different view of how the budget numbers break out. There's some hyperlinks with some details. I know at least 2 board members who have gone through it based on the question they've asked. This is a great graphic to kind of put perspective. And it should make sense. When you look at the consistency, 78.3, 78.7, 78.2, funds that goes towards program versus funds that goes towards administration type services. So you see very consistent, and this by design. We're supposed to be allocating funds on those things that are accordingly, so it kind of gives you that frame. So when you look at the budget, again, you don't see things out of kilter because we want to have repeatable successes. So we build a model to give us that repeatable successes, taking into consideration the changing factors of a particular system. So pretty excited about how that's going to play out. And this kind of gives a 5-year average. The 5-year number includes the proposed number. Say somebody wants to run the math, it's kind of out of, so it kind of gives you a flavor. And last year budget went up more so than normal because last year was the infusion of the higher foundation aid. So when you look at it, that makes sense from that standpoint. But it kind of gives you a flavor again of how this budget in comparison to over the past several years and then on the average as well. So it's just kind of give you a flavor of the budget process. And from the revenue side, not a lot has changed. We're still using, so the current tax situation, tax levy is a backfill. So we start with what's our other revenues, and then we kind of go into calculating what's the amount of property tax that we need to have on for the budget itself. So if we get some additional revenues on the state aid side, it will impact, because it's an equation, right? One impacts the next one. Hopefully in a positive way. The state aid numbers that we're using right now is based on the governor's budget proposal. And so we use that because typically we kind of look at the tea leaves. The 2 houses, typically either they come in where the governors are slightly above. It's rare. I'm thinking last time this happened was when Governor Pataki was governor, that we actually saw the budget went the other way around. So it's been a while before you understand the politics, and then you kind of hedge your bets. And so we use the governor's proposal as a part of that baseline to make those determinations. So interest income is one area that I would point out. For several years, income was nothing, absolutely like almost zero. And then last couple of years started going up, and I always say 1 year doesn't make a trend. So let's see what is the cycle. So we watched the market cycle. We started looking at some different investment tools that we're allowed to investment in, and now we're starting to see now a couple of years of some baseline, and so hopefully that baseline will hold as we move forward. And again, we still watch the market space in terms of where the market is going. It's kind of hard to predict, but again, we have enough leeway to make adjustments if we have to when it comes to some of the investment income pieces of the budget as well. And so this kind of gives you a summary. The tax cap calculation, as we're proposing right now, is still right at that baseline where we're slightly below the cap by 0.14, about 195,000. So pretty much flat line with the property tax cap, and we'll watch that again to see what the next couple of weeks here brings, and hopefully by April 1st becomes important because April 9th is when we adopt our budget. So if we get good data, or better data, final data, we can make whatever adjustments in time before that adoption piece take place on the 9th. Just give you a reflection of the tax implication. Again, these are estimates we're using, current year's assessed valuations, current year equalization rates. Those things will change. Assessed valuation is probably going to be for the better. We're going to get greater value in assessed valuation. Equalization rates typically kind of fluctuate around the same market space. So if anything, there's these numbers potentially will be better than reflected here now. So again, that's a positive piece when you think about trying to project out what the potential tax implications are across the respective towns. And you see very minimal differences from current year 23-24 to what we're estimating for 24-25. Again, it's an estimate. These won't be finalized, quite frankly, until August, where we get equalization rates. So it's a long time out before we finalize tax rates per thousand. And this just give you a flavor of how that plays out for the average. Again, we're using $300,000 value as a baseline, just to get some flavor of what property taxes may look like. Again, we don't, people's house value fluctuates. And so some people say, well, you know, my house used to be $300,000, now it's $500,000. Well, that's a good thing. It could be a bad thing, depends on if you want to sell, if you want to buy, you know, those kind of things, right? So we use this kind of give a baseline measure so people have some sense of what they may look to pay around. Because again, predictability is important for people who are planning. Predictability is important for people who have escrow accounts. Those things are important so people can plan out that I should be paying about this amount for my property taxes along with my mortgage payment. So we try to make sure we're kind of consistent with that as we move forward. So again, this is another summary of the budget. One of the things that we started reading again, and you probably hear some of the news, a lot of positive news coming out of the state right now. No one is talking about going less than the governor's budget. And so we're thinking, okay, let's cross our fingers and hope that we have an on-time good budget. That's the main thing, on time and good. And so hopefully that be the case. And so we started thinking about some of the things. And so back to Kelly's presentation, we have some capacity now within the budget that two things, and Kelly alluded to the piece that trying to do some video campaigns. So the piece that we're wondering is, okay, if we get someone who focuses on a content manager, then having some capacity to contract with people who do videos instead of trying to have a videographer, because it comes with a whole different set of circumstances. And so, for instance, I think next week we have a meeting with someone who does a lot of campaigns surrounding hiring, recruiting, hiring, HR. So we're having a conversation with those folks now to kind of feel them out as maybe a first pilot to revamp some of our hiring videos and things of that nature. So that's where this capacity can be used interchangeably as a part of our larger communication piece as we move forward. Safety coordination is one of those pieces that we're working through now, trying to look at what we have at both risk management, some of the other pieces we have, and how do we try to collapse some of those program pieces as we move all together. Something that has been on the radar for a long time is you know, and if Rose Barrett's not here, we just met with Rose. When did we meet? Yesterday? Time flies. Yesterday. Met with Rose yesterday, and one of the things that we were talking about, everything from CTE and robotics, and those two things tying has the potential to tie in one the same, because we will need some additional space to do some of the programming that we need for CTE. And if we're going to look at that, it creates an opportunity also to look at some of the space that potentially for robotics. And so we're doing a lot of research right now on prefab buildings. It's still going to be costly because we still have to go through the SED protocols. However, they could be much more timely to erect or construct, however you want to look at it. So we're doing a lot of research right now against some price points, and we'll assess this budget as well as year end to see where we are and what we can do and the approval process to go through state education department and the timeline for those kind of things. And so again, trying to create some opportunities, or should I say take advantage of opportunities by identifying a few things as we move forward. And clearly, if we have an opportunity to minimize the implication on our taxes while we're doing great things, we look to try to propose those things as well. And so certainly being below the tax cap allowance is something that we'll do, continue moving forward to avoid the headache of trying to get a supermajority or those things of that nature. So again, I do see some opportunities in the future. So we'll see what April, hope it's not April Fool's Day, you know, for us, but for April 1st coming, it's a lot of positive piece. I mean, we can have some conversation about how can we do some additional stuff, again, strategically within the budget that we can sustain moving forward on focus on some of these kind of some big rocks that'll be quite beneficial. The bus proposal piece, I'm not going to rehash this because Mr. Cameron just recently presented some of these things, but I just pulled out a couple of criteria pieces that goes into the process when we look at bus replacement, the age piece, and you saw the big dip, particularly last year when we purchased the e-buses, which were significantly much more costly. In fact, we had for 4 buses the equivalent of almost what we would do for 18 buses, so pretty significantly cost difference. And so this year we're looking so the big piece of it we mentioned before, and again, I'm not gonna rehash. I think Al did a great job in the presentation. We're looking at some power capacity. We just met actually this week with a bunch of folks from our engineers to architects, because we have the State Education Department just approved the plans to construct 2 permanent outside charging stations, which has the equivalent of 4, so it's 2 on each thing. And so now, because of that, we're thinking about, okay, if we're gonna start this, how do we then start building capacity, make sure what we build now can be used tomorrow and can be added on as we move forward. So we love those conversations. And then with that conversation too, we started some conversation with National Grid, and we'll continue those conversations with National Grid in the coming weeks. Al and his folks and our engineers have been on a lot of webinars surrounding the power piece, trying to look at some different angles related to power. How do we get more power coming into the district to do the 4 or 2, however you want to look at it, and then some power to do expansion over the next 3 to 5 years, and then ultimately, what's the ultimate power capacity to potentially power up the entire fleet of buses. So this is why we had the short-term view of it, this long-term view of it, doing a lot of legwork, a lot of research, because more than likely we'll be coming back to the board in probably May, talking about what we're thinking about for building condition survey construction, this construction, and potential referendum October, November, to again try to get ahead of the SED timeframe, because right now that's part of the, and I don't blame, it's not SED, I'm not blaming SED, I'm not blaming you. Please help and approve all our projects. We love you SED, but that's a part of the process. We always try to figure the timing of that process as well to get projects through, so we can then try to construct in those windows where we can construct. So that's a big piece of it. And so right now we still have to replace buses, and this was the proposition that Mr. Karam explained to the board last week. So that proposition is on this board. And so some key points for people to know. The board adoption is on the 9th. The budget hearing is on the 7th. The budget vote is on the 21st. We'll have the budget, right now is $213 million. We have 2 seats for the Board of Education, 3-year terms. And then the transportation resolution to not to exceed the 3.6 million. So that kind of gives you some flavor of what next on the April meeting, those adoption will be. There's a notice on the agenda tonight for the board to adopt the notice to say that these things will be the things that will be on the referendum in May. And again, we're starting to put information out there. A lot of folks are stuffing ballots today for absentee ballots to go out. So absentee ballots will start going out. And so that's a big part of the process as well. And so we send out, we have a list from the county that we have to send absentee ballots out to certain citizens, and then people start making those requests, and we're gearing up to have all those ballots start going out as well. So the process is rolling as we speak. We'll be meeting in the coming weeks to look at the Goanna site that we use an alternative entry that we used last year. We're looking to do that again. Even with the new entry constructed, we still want to use that the entry to separate student traffic from voter traffic as we move forward. And so this kind of gives you a wrap on what we're trying to do, the final analysis. We're going to start with preserving programs, looking at some key enhancements, and then trying to figure out how do we keep the tax implication to a minimum. And so that's been what we've been trying to do over the last 19 years. I think we've done it well, and hopefully this budget continue to do the same thing as well. So I'll stop there, and if there are any questions that you may have or comments, we'll be more than happy to address them.
Before we do the questions, because we're gonna allow time for public comment, should we do the questions first or public comment?
No, the board first. This is for the board, so.
Okay, all
I
right.
don't know if there is any public.
Well, I know, but just want to make sure I said that. Okay, any questions?
I don't really know how much bigger the budget is expected to be
Right,
than
so-
originally proposed on April 1st.
You talking about the state budget?
State budget.
Sky's
Yeah.
the limit.
No, it's
Yeah.
no, it's kind of hard to say.
Right.
Yeah.
So if
So we don't know.
no, we don't. And if we get any significant, when I say significant, so if we get whatever, for conversation purposes, if we get 500,000 plus more, then we're gonna have. That's why I kind of put those things out there. Then we put them in a hopper and say, how do those things play out then, and how does that calculate? And it will, because we have to do the balance, right? So we don't go over the tax cap piece with that piece of it. So we'll do the number balancing piece of it and say how much of that do we capitalize by adding some additional programs. if it's something that, quite frankly, would become kind of significant, we probably won't do a lot of significant changes to the budget itself.
Dr. Robinson, so, what's being recommended here though, to Petra's point, is it based on, we were looking for a 3.5% increase over?
No.
And the governor originally capped it at 2.
Yeah, so
what is this based on?
No, so I wanna make sure I understand the question. So the potential for more state aid is because the governor's budget did not allow the formulas to run. And that showed up the piece that most popular when the safe harmless provision was moved, and basically saying that if you had safe harmless, we're gonna get rid of, in a lot of places had safe harmless, we're seeing almost double-digit reduction in state aid. That was the first indication that the formula wasn't running the way it should run. Analysis go back and say places like Shen, that if the formula would have been allowed to run, we could have been anywhere about 3.5%, almost 4% adjustment in foundation aid. Our foundation aid adjustment right now is right at 2%. And so the question is, how much of the formula allowed to run piece will come, right? How much between the potential of 3.5 to 4 versus 2, and what does that mean for us? And, or maybe if people are super generous, and it goes beyond what the formula calculation should be, because there's a formula that calculates foundation aid.
So is this assuming if it were allowed to run?
Yes, that we could do some, exactly. So that's why I make sure, I want to separate to make sure.
How much money is that about, that one, cause it's like $2 million, I think, what we got, something like that? In foundation increase?
Well, I don't.
This year?
Yeah, it's, we think we have a graph on it. So I'm thinking, that's why I use that $500,000 figure as back to Petra's benchmark. Because I'm hoping that's gonna be our sweet spot, that the final budget will bring in around $500 million more. Because that's, we could do something with that, right?
Yeah.
We could do, so I mean, again, if it's okay, it's $100,000 more, okay, that, by the time we try to offset with tax implication, it's not that significant. So that's why I use that 500,000 piece, because that gives us a chance to do something substantial and yet balance the tax implication.
Okay, and for the web content manager, the incremental cost for moving to a new website provider, that is already in the budget.
Yeah, because we started that process literally 2 years ago, and so that's considered in our existing operational allocations, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah. And plus, quite frankly, too, I hope I'm not jinxing it, Kelly. Kelly was like, so the price points we got from some of the places 2 years ago, and the price points now have gone down. And so largely because technology and how people develop on websites have changed, and quite frankly, with some of the AI implications, a lot of things have changed. So we're like, oh, that's a good thing for us, as we move forward.
So I have one more question.
Yeah,
and I'm very excited to hear about the CT and robotics building. I am curious though, I'd asked you a question earlier about the anticipated cost, so I realized this one is a big item. Is it intended to one big space, and then, or is it like a permanent section for robotics? Because we had talked about the field. Is it for the field?
Yeah. So right now,
the practice field.
Yeah. So right now, the robotics, the need that robotics has, and probably most robotics see, we ship a lot of kids, a lot of parents go to RPI to use the practice field, and some places have done some joint things, some schools have done some joint things. So yes, so primarily for that. And there's some specific dimensions in terms of what's ideal for that. I'm not necessarily saying that the place in RPI is ideal or not. In fact, I have a road trip coming up soon to go visit while it's in action, because I want to see it myself.
So it's actually not at RPI, it's in the tech park. The tech park, yeah.
I use RPI as a point. So yeah, so that's a piece of it. Then we have that construction trades course that's really booming, and it's so booming so much that we have 2 houses behind the back of High School West now that we tried to sell, and we have some neat ideas of how we could also provide kids with some great experience and provide some things that even as a school district that we can use and need. But part of that, it's great to say have ideas, but if you can't execute ideas, it just doesn't make sense. So that's why we want to try to figure out some space to do some of that stuff, that particular expand some of our trades program. It's pretty, it's exciting stuff. So that's why we're planning to plot out, make sure that we don't solve one problem and create another problem. That we don't solve that and all of a sudden we can't do this anymore because the space we used to do that, we can't have it on. So those kind of logistical type things we're looking at as well.
Okay, thank you. Jason.
If you'll indulge me, I'm gonna ask a couple of questions that I probably would have asked last week. But do you know off the top of your head the 2 Suburbans, what do we use those for?
A lot of them are long distance trips. So for instance, like we have a kid goes to Rome, School of the Blind. Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, yeah.
So
So-
it's transportation.
Oh,
still,
yeah, they're all transportation.
Okay.
All these are
Interesting. Okay.
people transportation.
I didn't know if it was okay.
Oh, no. We don't know.
And then can I ask a question about debt service?
Sure.
So I see our debt service jumps in the next few years, and I was just curious about that. I think really in particular, it's like the 26.5 million, the last bond, not the Maxwell one. That one like jumps up, it like balloons for a few years and
And
comes
then
back
it
down.
starts.
Yeah, is there a reason that one, 'cause most of ours are pretty smooth throughout.
Well, remember, the debt service, looking at it, it's both transportation debt and capital debt combined. So when the combination of all those things, as well as, and so some of the coming down is debts that's maturing. So it's a timing of what's maturing off when it start to come down. I think you see till, I think it's 27, 28, you see like a 3-year kind of jump up and then it start dropping back down. I don't have it in front of me, I think it's like 3 years out. It start dropping back down. And so
the
that's
next couple of years are tough.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it comes back.
And so that's why we try to time it then for future referendum to say, okay, if we're gonna bring on, or say whatever, call it Project 24, 25. That Project 24, 25 won't have a fiscal impact till 5, 6, 6, 7, maybe 7, 8, 27, 28, Kathy. So when you think about 27, 28, that's the time when the debt is down. So when all of a sudden it kind of smooths back out. So literally we try to, as much as we can physically try to time things, the reality of it is, some of this is what's the market space for borrowing, how much money, how much it costs money to borrow. And also what's our needs. Sometimes we love to be able to say we're gonna do this every 3 years, but the reality of it is we probably have to do some things every 2 years. The bus debt piece that we haven't even considered, that's not on there. What does e-bus cost? Because it's a whole different animal.
Just on not the Maxwell referendum, the one before that.
26 million one.
Right. That one, that increases for a few years. Like it's got like a stiff growth, and I could ask this separately if we don't want to get it.
Yeah, because
that's the only one that's not as smooth as the other.
So one of, again, please do, and I can share the information with all the board, because it's also different between which one are we banding, which one are we going out for. So also depends on the time, the length of the project, right? Certain projects, we go out and borrow the whole amount right away because the project's gonna happen for. So other projects, because it has phased in, we borrow in smaller chunks. You do bands, and it's a cheaper progression of debt, right? So it's, so if I'm going out borrowing $26 million right now, and I'm paying the principal interest on $26 million at whatever the market rate is, versus if I had the flexibility of borrowing 5 here at a lower rate, 10 here, whatever, and schedule it, then it impacts the payment sequence, right? So again, not having that detail in front of me. But those are kind of things that we have and I don't want to pretend like I'm a financial genius, because we do actually have a financial genius. We contract Bernie Donegan out of Syracuse for years. There's probably like 3 or 4 school finance people that really, so Bernie Donegan has been a company we've used forever. And so they come in, they walk through all the scenarios with us, the borrowing scenarios. If you borrow this versus this. And then also we have to backside, and not to prolong this, we have to look at the state reimbursement piece. When is the state reimbursement kicking in? Because the last thing we want to have is still paying debt and the reimbursement stopped, right? So we're also trying to time that sequence in how, what we borrow, when we borrow it, with the construction phase and how construction is taking place as well. But the bigger piece, and the bigger piece I think I'm trying to point out to the board is when you look though, of all those things combined, and you look over the years, we knew the blip was going to happen. It's a 2 or 3 year blip. Then it started to equalize and creates opportunities for us to add on new project and not again having things out of kilter. Because if you go back probably 10 years, the debt level that we're gonna be in 4 years is actually, in some cases, lower than the debt level we were 10 years ago. Because one, price of borrowing money was higher. We were going through some project after project after project after project. And so now those things are maturing and giving us some flexibility to move forward.
Could I just ask, because maybe I understood it incorrectly, when we were talking about this last week, you were talking about also the reserves and that we would potentially revisit that in the future, but to address the bumps, to
Exactly.
smooth the bumps.
Exactly.
So to use reserves in that way.
So when we get to year end, and the easier ones, because some of the capital debt have longer term obligations, right? And also, not only longer term obligations, but also the state aid alignment piece of it, a little more challenging, versus paying off a bus debt. Bus debt, we don't have long-term obligation, and the reimbursement piece of it isn't the same structure. So at the end of the day, it's all a part of the same equation, right? The capital and the bus add up to the total debt.
Right.
And so if we should pay off some of the easier ones to pay off, if you want to look at it that way, and reduce that overall cost, interest costs and things of that nature, yeah, absolutely is one of those things that we look to do towards the end of the year.
Yeah, it's
that's
really
what,
just the next couple of years, we have like a few things, but
yeah.
then it's.
And that's why you notice in the budget, we mentioned the debt piece, and also when Kathy did her mid-year financial piece, we said we're gonna look at that again, revisit that again in June, once we start the audit process and kind of have real numbers to look at.
I had one more question. Oh, do you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. So I know that Al had said that we, would have had 28 buses this year, but because of enrollment, he's proposing 23 buses. Yeah. So we're not seeing the out plan. So what is planned for next year? I'm just curious.
What do you say plan for next year?
Well, I mean, so he has a plan as far as what he anticipates for buses rolling.
The inventory of buses, you mean?
Right, because I didn't foresee such a big bump for this year. And so I'm just wondering what's planned for next year? It's just looking out.
So
because this stops, with what.
Yeah, and that's by deliberate design too, because quite frankly with you, 25, 26 is we may be, what's the conversation going to be surrounding e-buses?
It might be the year before the last year to buy.
Yeah, and so just indulge me for a second here.
Well, we're not allowed to buy any more.
Yes, if the mandate kicks in, what does that mean?
Yeah.
We're not buying.
So that might be the year
So we may not,
So it does seem like we're bulking up.
We're bulking up.
In advance of not being able to purchase them.
So I'm going to show you something here for a second.
That's pretty clear.
Well, we're working because we need to turn them over. Sorry, you're watching how I organize myself.
That's actually really organized.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's great, jeez.
I need you to come take care of my stuff.
Really. 1 second here. So, just to give you, and we're gonna talk about more, we just right now, I leave nothing for me to remember, because why? I document everything, right? So don't take a chance to remember things that's important. So I started documenting this out for, and again, this intention is, it's my internal document of documenting things.
I remember you had one of these for like the kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly. So I do this, I document everything that we do, I want to put a process on it, right? So this is our electrification bus piece.
Okay.
So for example, we started with Carney's, the technology guys who came in, and we did the piece. But the piece I want to show you though is, so we're having some capital construction talk. We're talking to NIMO. We're trying to look at capacity. We're doing all these conversation pieces. Now I document everything out, even to the point where I refer to myself in the first person. This is sad, right? So we document everything out, and then a piece that we started working today, because we're working on this because we're going to try to be prepared to leverage some NYSERDA funds. And NYSERDA asks for a ton of details on everything. So might as well good. So it'd help us plan, but also help us potentially leverage some funds. And so we started looking at bus replacement. So this gives you an example. This is e-bus replacement. This is assuming that if it's going to take us 3 years to do the infrastructure upgrade, you'll see next 3 years, we probably won't be purchasing any e-buses because you can't purchase e-bus until you have the infrastructure upgrade.
That doesn't make any sense though. Like, we could definitely buy one more bus.
No, so, but let's follow the bouncy ball.
Yeah.
Follow the bouncy ball. This is assuming, so NIMO they have a pilot program we're gonna look at. So this is assuming that we're up in grade infrastructure. The first phase is trying to get up to 80 buses, capacity. And so that construction would literally take 3 years between NIMO, SED to get the whole thing. So that means then we have to think about, okay, if this is the worst case scenario, if we can't do anything for 3 years, what does that look for a bus replacement cycle on pure e-buses? So we have to look at that. And then we kind of play the game, so okay, if we can't do anything for 5 years, what does it look like for bus replacement for e-buses? And that becomes problematic because those are big numbers to get to 2035 and replace out essentially 200 buses for e-bus at that point. So that's where we start thinking, okay, so what does this here then look like? So how can we short circuit this? So this is not 3 years out from 24, 25 before we can expand some additional capacity. And that's when we start having a conversation with NIMO about throttling down and additional power coming in, and we having a lot of conversation right now. Because with this, the big numbers come to the end of it. So we have to figure out a different configuration as you move forward.
So the 80 buses in phase 1, this is to get to, in 2035, the entire fleet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because by law, that's what has happened.
But it could be so if it were modified, which we don't know yet because it's not.
Then this is our worst case scenario plan that we have to have in place. Correct.
Okay, so the reason why you have nothing budgeted is because we don't have a power capacity for 80 buses.
Correct.
I mean, yeah,
But
80
we have
buses.
power capacity for 2 more buses.
Yeah, well, I hear you, but quite frankly, with you, that's.
But that's how everyone's gonna do it. They're not gonna buy 80 buses in
Patrick,
5 years,
But
right?
we have 200 buses. That's the point I'm making we and I agree. The point I'm making is that if we go 2 buses at a time, we'll be here for 20 years.
But if we go 80 buses at a time, we're gonna bankrupt.
Exactly. Thank you. So that's the point I'm making.
No, but
That's the challenge.
That's the challenge that we have. Exactly. Exactly.
There's limited ways. There's not enough runway to smooth this out in a way
That's
that's
fine,
not
but
going to break
don't
the
say
bank.
that we don't have capacity to
Yeah.
buy them. We do, we're just choosing not to because we're gonna buy them all at once.
No, we don't. We don't.
How much does one charger?
We don't have, right now, we have the capacity, we have maxed out at transportation with the 2 chargers. When we build the infrastructure, we're gonna shift that power from where that's coming into the bus garage to those 2 chargers. NIMO has a plan to say that we can throttle back, if the district can throttle back to 1.4 megawatts in the summertime, the question that we don't know what does that throttling back mean? Is it throttling back to the transportation? Is it throttling back across the district? And that's why we have 2 other meetings set up with them to say, because they're saying if we could throttle back, then we can maybe to expand out more to give you more capacity. So the question is, are we throttling back for a year? Or are we gonna have to be in a summer throttle back mode for indefinite period of time? And what does throttling back mean first? And can we do that for consecutive years before it becomes a programmatic issue? Those are the big questions we have to ask. So
Why are we talking about the summer?
because the winter utilization versus summer utilization.
Right, but
The power companies say they have a
That's what
they
they
have the same
do to
power.
us.
I hear.
So they would need more in the winter.
Exactly, and so if you use less in the summer, you could get more in the winter, and vice versa. When a high peak use is winter. So
it's like transferring energy usage. We don't use it in the summer when everyone else is.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we use it a lot in the winter.
Right,
when
and so how
ACs
do we
are
do
down.
this exactly?
So the question is, how much can we throttle back in the
And
summer
what
so
does
that
that
we
mean?
have the excess?
And what does that mean
But
exactly?
we go to school a little bit in the summer. But when does
Right.
the summer start? Doesn't it start?
See, those,
Right, that's a problem.
see what I'm saying? Those are all the questions. Now, I just want to say we agree, and those are all the questions that we have to
I just
get
don't want to
answers
kick the can too far down the road with the expectation that, something magical is gonna happen.
No, I agree.
Later.
That's the dilemma we have is is that
And in the meantime, we have to turn over the buses that are
we
due
have
to be
existing.
turned over.
Exactly.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to my original question, what's the plan for next year?
Next year.
But this is a purchase plan
No,
for
I mean,
24,
so 23 buses in this budget, 24, 25, so looking a little bit further out. You showed us the plan for the e-buses, but what about?
So,
Or she's talking about like
Yeah.
diesel buses.
yeah, so,
How
so
many
if,
diesel buses will we buy
so again, remember,
You don't know,
the mandate is in 2026,
for 2027,
no,
6
2026,
and 27.
we gotta start purchasing only e-buses.
Just for 7.
And so that creates a dilemma. So our normal progression, if you look back at this slide, that's why we have this slide. Our normal progression is the sweet spot average about 18 buses. So if you were going with the normal progression, we're probably right back in the 17, 18 range for 24, 25. However,
But we're not.
with this mandate out there, I think the frustration that I think you're feeling is the same one, because we would love to say 24, 25, 26, we'll be probably back in that 18 to 20 range because it's the age bus cycle piece, right? And so if you look at this, you see the cycle over the last several years. We go from, so if you look at average, it's averaging around 18, 19 buses. So if we were to kind of fall back into that range and not having to be an e-bus component of it, we probably would be right in that, again, 18 to 19 range. However, with the mandate out there, that changes a lot of things in terms of what it's really going to look like moving forward. And so one of the things that we have to think about is right now, the industry average is around 7.5 years, but in reality, we hold our buses about 10, 11, longer than the industry average, I think. So the question is, how long do they didn't say we can't hold on to diesel buses. So how long do we hold on these buses until hopefully by then we have a better idea of what does reimbursement mean? What does the cost of buses mean? What does power mean? And then we kind of, back to your piece, lay out a plan that's manageable. Right now, the plan that we have is not manageable. It's just not. And so it's kind of hard to say it's just not, but there's so many other factors that come into place that we have to wait and see. And this is important because the state is capturing information now to say what can people do and what's real, what's not real, and how does that play out. So we'll see.
The realities of this mandate are gonna hit the deadline of the mandate, and I would expect things are gonna change, because the entire state won't be able to do this in the time.
Well, it's an odd negative incentive, right? I mean, the mandate is encouraging schools to purchase as many diesel buses as they can. To hoard them. Right.
Because you have no idea what the next 5, 7 years look like.
And the hope is that over the next 10 years, that manufacturing for the e-buses becomes much more streamlined, the supply
That it would
increases,
normalize,
demand-
Again, this is
Right.
magical
It's
thinking.
lagging
Yeah.
pretty far behind though, passenger
No,
vehicles.
right now the prices are doing this.
And those were the prices like pre-COVID, so.
Yeah, I mean, the buses that we ordered, literally, if we didn't lock in to prices way back, because I don't know if you recall, when we were having this conversation, we were locking into the vendor because they give us a price. And so we say, lock in that price with the condition that it has to be voter approved, right? And if we didn't lock in that price, by the time we went through the process of making a purchase, the price jumped up. You know, like, so literally within months, right? And so, but you're right. So I think, Petra, my apology I wasn't in disagreement with you.
Oh, you're
But I
fine.
think the same frustration that you have is the same thing we have, because we're trying to plan out something that right now there's some huge factors that dictate for us to do something like this where we're doing multiple double-digit numbers at a time. We can't purchase double-digit e-buses at a time. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars. That's a significant amount, and that's the reason why having this information becomes important, to have those conversations and say, if the resources are there, power, funds, otherwise, we'd be more than happy to do it, we can execute it. But absent those things, what you call a fantasy plan, is that what you call it?
Magical thinking.
Magical thinking.
I think there's some going on the sides, yeah.
So, but yeah, anyway, so that's where we are.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, that was a lot of information. But I appreciate you sharing it and also providing the updates. And also fingers crossed that come April 1st, that the two houses, their hard work will still hold. Maybe also with pre-K.
Yes, that's one we're
contracts.
watching too, because I think it's the Senate proposal had a increase in the per pupil allocation, which for us would be huge.
That would be really good.
Yeah.
And we maybe use all of our allocations.
Yeah, big
So we still at
difference.
180 that we would.
No, 180 is our
This year.
pupil allotment, yes.
Okay.
But we have funds that just don't have space to spend it, because quite frankly, it's hard for people to expand programs.
Right, but where are we with the 180 students? Is it like?
The lottery hasn't started yet.
I mean, this year, was it because we weren't able to max out this year?
We were close. Yeah, we were close. Because of why added some programs and they won't be doing it this year, so.
But there was over 200 seats in there.
Yeah, because, some places,
Yeah,
but now we lost a big provider in the Y.
yeah. But there were fewer than 230 last year, I think.
Yeah, I remember what the number was, but the Y was a big benefit to us last year. But again, for them, cost-wise, it's not sustainable. Hopefully this per pupil increase will lend to that being sustainable.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's it for me, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's
Went
good.
Longer
All
than
good stuff.
anticipated.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So at this point, is there anyone from the public that would like to come up and speak or ask any questions?
It's all you. No?
It's all you, David. Come All right, Jackson, now it's up to you. All right, with that, I'll close the public comment period and I'll move into the action items. For item A, can I have a motion to adopt the language for formal notice and propositions for the annual budget vote? Jason is first, Petra is second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 4 in favor. Deanna had to leave earlier. Comment note to Vanessa. Item B, can I have a motion to approve the pre-K provider contracts? First is Tom, second is Jason. Any comments? All in favor? It is 4 in favor. The motion is approved. Thank you. Item C, can I have a motion to approve the First Light contract with via E-rate? First is Petra, second is Tom. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 4 in favor. The motion is approved. For staffing recommendations, we have one recommendation just to move forward with it.
Yeah.
Okay. For item D, can I have a motion to approve the staffing recommendation? First is Tom, second is Jason. Any comments? I'll just say that this is our new, the replacement for the high school. ISD, it is. I'm seeing a nod. Okay, that is wonderful news. All in favor? It is 4 in favor. The motion is approved. Thank you, and welcome, Ryan. We're going to move into for good of the order, and this is an opportunity for board members to discuss salient matters or give a shout out. I'll turn it over to the board first. Any comments to share?
Motion to adjourn.
No. Jackson.
It's for the good of the order.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I actually do have a few things to share. So just give me a minute. I promise it won't take too long. No, I was actually serious, Jackson. I didn't know if you wanted to share anything.
No, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to share, I thought this was pretty exciting news, that Seema Rivers, she's the president of the Guilderland School Board, and she is now one of the newest regents. She was just appointed, so she'll be resigning that role. The regents, it's a 5-year term, and there's 3 up, and she's one of them, and I thought that was pretty cool to hear the school board member becoming a regent. I'm sure that's happened in the past, but still cool to hear. Question for Dr. Robinson, roadshow schedule?
We're waiting for a couple PTAs to get us final dates.
Okay, I just wanted to ask.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are we encouraged to attend those? I mean, do you want us to? Is that something people do?
So I said the ones that the town board one is a good one, I think, to come to.
Yeah.
Both Clifton Park and Half Moon.
Okay.
A lot of the PTA, like PTA Council, is going to be virtual. Several PTAs we're going to do virtual. If you're already on a PTA, the one night that come to your liaison, it'd be great to have a friendly face, not to say that they're unfriendly, face in the audience. So those kind of things,
Okay.
yeah.
But it's not something that we're
No.
expected to attend,
No,
just.
no.
Yeah.
Like you do the one with the Rotary, that's more closed because they're lunch. And I just go and talk and leave and not eat.
So I do remember when I first joined the board, that the candidates, were invited to go to these things. So,
Well,
but
they were made aware of it.
made aware of it,
Yeah.
yes.
I think I remember going my year. First year, young and eager and excited about the road show, and it was not as exciting as one would
Pretty
expect.
exciting.
Exactly.
You just, sorry, I apologize. No, I'm kidding. So this Thursday is the unified basketball game?
Yes.
Yes, very
For
exciting.
Tom, Petra,
We have
Desta,
several
and
players.
Deanna, but Deanna's injured. So we have 3, and Mrs. Carmen is organizing it. Jason?
I'll be there, but I won't
So-
be playing, so.
So we have 5. We have five board members on the bench, 4 will be playing.
And we're playing
That means we
actual
could,
basketball players.
that's an open meeting game, and we could pass some resolutions like
So we make sure we put
3
separate on the
Right,
bench.
all in
Yeah, we
favor.
just gotta
talk
put
to
it,
each other.
is it too late as far as public notice for, no?
No. See, this is why you should have accepted my motion to adjourn.
I was in 8th grade.
Putting it out there.
True story.
Oh dear,
Yeah.
okay, there's always
It's public
consequences, right?
person there.
Okay, also, we won't have, our next meeting won't be until after the break, that's April 9th, so looking forward to that little bit of break, and hopefully it'll warm
Happy
up for it
holidays.
as well. And also, the eclipse will have happened by then too, so we'll have that to talk about.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, lots of good things. Okay, so with that, can I have a motion to adjourn? First is Tom. Second is Jason, all in favor. It is 4 in favor. Meeting is adjourned.